wrong voice. Niggas get shot every day. B.E.B.I. Get wrong voice. Niggas get shot every day. B.E.B.I. He tough, right? Get wrong voice. I'ma say what's on my mind, y'all can say whatever. I'm ruled for Trump, he bringing back the Reagan era. Can't trust Hillary, Hillary can't suck dick. That's why I feel cheating with the Monica Lewinsky bitch. Homies getting shot up in front of their kids. You think we give a fuck who the president is? I know they keep their shot, but I'm cooler with the shooter. After you shot him, you go to the shot to the cooler. Got niggas tucking their chain in.
It was still, they had to take off mask and
oh, we in the hood, we gon' stop like niggas like you heard about that kid that killed last night. I'm like, nope, I don't want to hear about it. Wasn't none of my niggas on me, so I don't care about it. We like his cousin was in the 5th grade and shit. I'm like, homie, I don't care who he related to. I ain't losing no sleep over that dead nigga. I don't care if his mother or what I'm saying. Damn, murder you cold. I was on the Rico, damn, nigga, you cold. I'm baby, so what's the full clip? I'm killing niggas, that's doing niggas I'm leaving with. Niggas get shot every day, B.E.B.I. He tough, right? Kid wrong voice. Niggas get shot every day, B.E.B.I. He tough, right? Kid wrong voice. Niggas get shot every day, B.E.B.I. He tough, right? Kid wrong voice. Niggas get shot every day, B.E.B.I. He tough, right? Kid wrong voice.
Have taken the early lead. Not a bad way to start it.
And I think that was part of their script, because so many teams script their opening possessions, and then whether it's just that possession or even deeper into the half, sometimes it's 15 to 30 plays that had to be in there where they call a shot clock for the big one, and they got it done.
I first smell the most shady, like a baby. Yeah, more defense.
Bailey now to kick it away after the touchdown. This will be taken to the back of the end
My fellow pros been top. This rap out the pitch top, drop top notch, spinning it won't stop. Since instant, rappers too persistent, quick to spit, digging in on shit. Make my name taste like ass when you speak it. See me in the streets of jewelry, you can keep it. Every Hollywood secret, see me. Be that is, I that is, G-Ways. Motherfuckers still in my bed. I hope they know my nigga motherfucking kid like kids. Fuck them in their ass, throw them over the bridge. That's how it is. My shit is laid out. Fuck that beat shit. My shit is played out. I got the ball. All I know is one thing. All I'm gonna do is put it on the mirror. All this is the bomber. I don't feel sorry. Actually, the man has to get to me. I check this, what's beat. You can bring your new sweet back to real sleep. You can bring your mom to the silver in the streets. You can run ICU. Guaranteed to be an ICU. You can bring your enemy to start to cheat.
The game again for any defense is finding ways to make a quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket. You rewrite all angles, you never know what's going to get wrong. In this case, the quarterback right in the face of
Now I cleared them shits that hit you on the fucking bitch. All in my first fuck out that your cover. Team that lead, beef and seeds, beef for free all the life. Niggas back on them like I seen them shit. And niggas sound like me. That was driving in the early night. All the time. Pussy nigga guarantee less than a kill, get you smoked. When that money coming, you and some of your niggas fall out. Living then we pull up to the building with the cars out. All my diamonds do it, diamond on the smoke shit. Ain't the killers, killers, down the street, ain't with no hope shit. Cooking with the fire, then in the G shit. Got a mother now, got smoke, got the bomb game. Pussy, you ain't talking, and I barely on the mix. Fuck up on my fuck up on my fuck. Fuck up on my fuck.
And it sure did on that one.
Dallas gets set to take the field. Interception thrown in the red zone last time. We'll see if they can rebound.
I just have to think the last thing he said as they went back out there was, don't do that again. What do you think? Yeah, I think that. I think you got to be said that. But he also told him it's part of the end zone where it's supposed to be. And the end zone you're trying to score. Like
Creeping up on a minute to play in this first half.
Just as hard as the shit that be under your feet. And the only time I run is with a blunt and a beat to show niggas that I'm nice and they ain't fucking with me. You melody niggas, cop coke, heavily niggas that are armed rob 70 niggas, you know? Murdering niggas, you want dope, they serving you niggas. Staying fifth gear, swerving on niggas, you know? Whether we ride or we die, we gon' get this up. All I know is drugs and guns and plenty of weed, and that bitch will suck dick. The niggas will bleed, and if you rich before you go get a watch and a drop, you better hit the courthouse and go bail out the block. If your son ain't worth shit, niggas will smuggle your daughter. I come through in the Porsche the same color as water. I got weight, what you want? I can cover the order. They call me boss when I cross the border. 6-shot order. I hear niggas say my face is screwed, but I put 6 in your stomach, nigga. Place that's the SP shit. We can take it and move. We can let the bullets spill till we all get killed. There's only 6 nights after it. One is real. Niggas die every day from smoking that dumb shit. That really dumb shit. All I mean is you can't get your gun quick. Just another dumb bitch. Hold it, something in the hood. Still my dirties out the hood. Look at the world, people niggas die. Don't be a little time left in the second quarter. Making the game near the end of the first half to expand that lead.
And that's got to be what you can't let up now on the kickoff. You gotta make sure they don't give up a big return or big yardage to set up the other team for one last chance to score themselves.
Now Jones taking that from 25 and 8 to the 28-yard line. The Ravens offense now making their way back out on the field. Every time quickly fading around the second quarter. Not sure how aggressive the offense just tackles no shots to the eyes. In this situation, they decide to take a shot. Surveying the field. Caught left side to Crabtree. And he is out of bounds on the other side of midfield. Whistles come in. We're going to get a timeout here by the offense. And with halftime on the horizon, they'll be out of timeouts from here forward.
Goodbye to the call. Don't go back on 56th Street. The thing is, I was just standing there and a nigga just walked one of the niggas there. It shot the nigga in the eye twice while I was standing right there. I thought the nigga was just leaving the dick.
That's touchdown! Cole, you gotta be kidding me.
This is the end of that. It's a presentation of the
Don't go on your own.
Yeah.
And look at this.
Fucking touchdown. steady driving for a fucking touchdown. That's wrong. That's fucking wrong.
Be protected and go rush it.
Drops incomplete, but if he was hit a flag shit sooner, it may have been a fumble. So a second down and completion.
Put it on the platter, now much uncut. More shit we dealing with, murder track, walk, slang, slang, in the much, every time if you hurt. And I'm like Slay, that's your sister. All on the government, follow me no mister. Not everything, farewell to the flesh. Jack Young in the scripture, 2001, in my back on my baby now. Let it be done, when you walk up in that dead zone, live on that black shit, man, you see the dead zone. 1,000 what's the next is good, that's things that the kids rap. Snitch, got to talk, smash, ventilation, let it start, animate, touch, like seven working, going on the sex, finger into your blood, take them, something to try, stumble like the black market, joy, truck, trucks, and carry on the rusher, rain like fuck, scope, like water rocks, to get double like the other guys, this, stuff, act loud, step right, and the big shit.
Again, I know my man got it right. I don't stop, so the beat got you next. that ain't it. Down south niggas that got the black training. East Coast niggas that got the benefit. We live in the business time for Force money over bitch. Force money over bitch. Let's get it. If you really live by the G code, shoot a couple of guns. Come get the criminal.
Prescott yet again. And he's going to be intercepted at third time. Picked off by the safety. Ready to take the field. See if the defense they'll be ready. They don't want that to happen again. You want them to be ready the last time. That's what you work on all the time. Make sure you get to the line. That's the defense. Not getting the ball back. They did. See how they adjust. Until he's down here about the 25-yard line. Again, 3rd and 2nd down. See if they stay on the ground for the 2nd down now. position of tying up the game.
And there's the touchdown, partner. We just saw it. What do you do now? Oh, yeah, of course you know what you do. You're going for 2, right?
I think anytime you're inside of 2 minutes in this situation, you try for 2.
And remember, let's go back to training camp. Every team we talk to, they spend more time now on 2-point conversion variance than they ever have before.
Huge conversion there. The defense needs to get a stop.
And there's still plenty of time for their team to come downfield and put some points on the board. But John Young is taking care of the 2-point conversion to get this thing done.
He's going to cost him about 7 yards all told as he's taken down back shy of the 20. And now here they've got work to do, but they do still have a bit of time here.
And they've got to get push sequences called. If they get out of bounds, that allows them to hold the ball. If they don't, it's hurry up to the line of scrimmage and either spike it and stop the clock or continue to move it downfield in order to try and get range and win this game.
They can do just that.
When the defense wins, it's a really hard job running the line. That's all they can do about it. And turning this into a understanding the situation, making the plays necessary, and making sure that clock stops in every opportunity.
Sliding out first and 10.
The heavy lifting was accomplished by scoring the touchdown. They're still down 1. That extra point is not a given.
Shoot fly shit, Wally Don Clark crew. Fuck y'all want to do, cracking food, smoking elephant. You ain't no baby bitch, you done take line. Baby, take no shit, no your take line. Did real line.
And now I choose from me, Mike. Adrenaline rush, cool kicks, 90% off. The Wish app is rad. Like it? It's about one of my favorite things ever. The Wish app. Clothes, shoes, electronics, 50 to 90% off retail. I heard there's the #1 shopping app in North America with over 100 million users. Tap now to download the free app. And thanks for listening to my haiku.
Not illegal, he's allowed to do it, but perhaps unethical or inappropriate. Now you have this story 24 hours later. Can he just ride it out, cycle after cycle, and then everyone just moves on to the foreign trip?
You know, I don't think so. And look, he's been able to continue forward despite all of these unforced errors or forced errors on his part, quite frankly, in his first few months of his administration. But what we saw yesterday with the allegations of leaking out information in a very careless manner was stupid. And it doesn't look very smart when you're working with our allies. The allegations today potentially could be criminal. You know, so that in itself rises to an entirely new level. And I do think we need to take a step back too, Eric, and just look at how people are looking at us right now. Vladimir Putin in Russia affected our elections last year. They toyed with our elections last year. They tried to break into our political system last year. This year, they're now affecting the operation of our government. And the big winner in all this, and I said this to you last week on the program when Director Comey inspired Vladimir Putin, because right now he's sitting back in Russia laughing. And we should have had the foreign minister, ambassador to Russia, were in the Oval Office last week. Why did that happen? It's amazing to me that the president allowed that to happen.
So Dan, can I just ask you a question about this? Because hold on 1 second. I just want to get Dan in on this point about the ambassador and the foreign minister. Because Dan, you know, we've reported it was 21 or 23 times that Ambassador Sergei Kislyak from Russia, this is the guy who's the top Russian spy and recruiter according to intelligence, visited the Obama White House. Can I ask you, because you were there, was he ever in the Oval Office? How unprecedented is that?
I actually don't know, Aaron, if he was in the Oval Office. I wasn't in those meetings. It is a different situation where the Russians got themselves involved in our elections. They did it to help Donald Trump win, and then to have him come in, and then to leak classified information, whether it was careless for some other reason, there is rank incompetence at all levels here, starting at the very top of the Trump White House. And sometimes it causes calls for a lot of Twitter activity or cable chatter about it. Sometimes it has real consequences. This one instance where it has real consequences because it affects intelligence operations being used to protect the country, and that's very dangerous. And that is where this gets very serious, and where we have to be. This is what Democrats worried about, putting someone like Donald Trump in office, and we're seeing that come to roost here.
Jason.
Well, Aaron, if you go back to the campaign, the president must have said dozens of times that he was going to try to enlist Russia's help in this war against ISIS. I think that's the only thing that happened here. And the only crime out of everything we've talked about so far, the only crime that we know that absolutely happened is the fact that somebody illegally shared the details of President Trump's conversation with a foreign leader to the Washington Post. And that's a very serious offense.
What's your response to that, Tony? Would you agree? At least technically right now. Well, and obviously we know there's other crimes that might have happened, but what would you say?
Well, first, I don't think I'd want to go back to the campaign because we've seen over the last 24 hours repeated montages of the president going after Hillary Clinton for not respecting intelligence and confidential information.
Right.
And anything she may or may not have done pales in comparison to what happened, whether it was intentional or not. But giving this information to the Russians, as Dan just said, in so many different ways, undermines our security. And we're depending on other countries to trust us, to have confidence in us, to share the most important, significant intelligence they get with us. And you know what's ironic is sometimes when it's something incredibly important but incredibly classified, you'll say to another country, look, we're only going to share it with the president. No one else in our system is going to see it. In this instance, that would not be something that inspires confidence.
Chris, do you think that there will be a chilling effect on other countries' willingness to share information with the U.S. or for spies to put their lives on the line to get information that could be shared with the U.S.? By the way, given that we have confirmed that it is Israel that is the third party, and of course the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, coming out in full support of the president today, even after it turned out that Israel is the country that could perhaps be put in jeopardy.
Yeah, these relationships are built on trust, and many of these were wired after 9/11 in a way that had never been done before. The Israelis are great partners in the intelligence area. So let me just say, it's an inadvertent disclosure in a very closed meeting with high-level officials is different from disclosing to the entire planet. And if anyone put someone in jeopardy, if this is a human source, it was the leaker. And it's really disgusting to see someone at a high level inside a law enforcement or intelligence agency putting their own personal agenda ahead of the safety of the source and the good of the country. And look, if President Trump made a mistake, he made a mistake. This has happened before, believe me. Inadvertent disclosures, but not a deliberate leak to a national media outlet so the whole world and ISIS can sit in their armchairs and read about it in the newspaper.
Well, what's your response to that? Because obviously the argument here is that is made, and look, leaking is criminal, but leaking is what happens. It happens to Democrats, it happens to Republicans. It is the only reason, for example, that Watergate even happened, that it was even able to be exposed was leaking. Okay, so just so everyone who wants to come out and say it's horrible, it has been important in American history. Could this be a case like that?
Well, there's a process for that.
It could be. It could be a case like that. But I think the thing that bothers most people who look closely at what happened in the White House is this was the president being extremely irresponsible in the handling of this intelligence by leaking it himself to the Russians without having had a discussion with his national security staff to make sure that this was a good idea. It strikes me as an off-the-cuff decision that he made, kind of probably just showing off about how much intelligence the U.S. had without really stepping back and being aware of the consequences of that act. That's the most disturbing aspect of that. And yes, somebody in the intelligence community was so upset about this that they leaked it, and that is a crime, and that is something that should be investigated. But on the other hand, I think the president has some questions to answer too about being cavalier and utterly irresponsible and immature about handling classified material.
All right, so also joining the conversation now with our panel, the former CIA director under President Clinton, former senior advisor of the Trump campaign, Ambassador Jim Woolsey, and former White House counsel for President Richard Nixon, John Dean. So John, let me start with you with the newest information that we have tonight, which is the memos that Jim Comey apparently kept because he was appalled, that is the word that we're using from our reporting, at things that Donald Trump said in meetings and phone calls with the FBI director, and including asking him to when it comes to the investigation into General Flynn. Apparently that memo from February 14th. If this happens, John, does this meet, in your view, the level of obstruction of justice, which of course is the impeachable offense?
Well, we've got two levels of obstruction, actually. You have the technical legal level, which he cannot be charged with while he's president, or the impeachable level of obstruction, which he could be charged with if the Republicans want to charge him. So I think there is an obstruction here. Without getting deep into the weeds of technical legal issues, not always is it an obstruction to just interfere with an FBI investigation or to impede it even. It has to be connected with a judicial proceeding, so we don't have all those facts at this point. But there's no question it could be impeachable. Indeed, Nixon was impeached for just such an act.
Ambassador Woolsey, we are learning now that these memos were, I think it's fair to say, extensive. Apparently, the FBI director, Jim Comey, I'm just giving you the very latest reporting crossing at this moment, documented, quote, everything he could remember, and he did so because the source says you realize something momentous has happened and memories fade, so he wanted to memorialize it at the earliest time. In one memo, we are now learning, Ambassador, Comey included a description of what Trump said to him about crowd size at the inauguration, which of course we all remember was something the president claimed which was not true. Ambassador, when you take the base memo that we have right now, Comey says Trump asked him to end the investigation into General Flynn. Donald Trump tonight via the White House denying that happened. Who do you believe?
Well, the important thing is, I think, to get straight what type of investigation is going on. There are really two kinds that the FBI runs. There's criminal investigations, which is what everybody thinks of with grand juries and with so forth. And then there's counterintelligence investigations, which is really intelligence collection. The FBI collects intelligence about counterintelligence in the U.S., the CIA collects it overseas, but it's not a criminal procedure. It's not part of the criminal justice system.
Right.
You can't have a system whereby you treat it as if it were criminal. That's wrong and a violation of law. So if you want to have a criminal investigation, you have to start something else. But this is a situation where almost everybody is talking about the investigation taking place. If it's a criminal investigation, that's why knowledge is not. It's
I want to share with you a little bit more of the new reporting that we're getting. Pamela Brown talking to a source who has seen the memos and knows Comey's thinking in terms of why he kept these extensive memos. And the source tells her, quote, there is no need to document the conversations with people who are truthful or situations that are routine. It's when you have situations that are not routine, people who are not truthful, write a memo to file. There have been other occasions where he has done this, but not every day. What's the significance of that coming from Jim Comey?
It sounds like it's past practice. We know he did this during the Bush years. And it's not surprising that is a good rationale for somebody who sees something exceptional. They make a note or they send a document, a contemporaneous document, and keep a record of it. He's obviously done this for a long time, and I don't think any of us should be surprised that these have appeared. I thought they would come up a couple days ago.
So, Ambassador, what is the bottom line? How damaging do you think it will be when the FBI director, former FBI director, testifies? Because our understanding is he believes these memos will be subpoenaed. Just heard a member of the Intel Committee saying he wants to give him 72 hours. Look, he's going to get them out. He wants to testify, or to tell his story. He wants to come out and tell it. So we're going to hear it. It is going to become he said, Ambassador.
Talking about testifying in a criminal proceeding, then somebody has to start one up. They haven't done that, as far as I can tell. They don't have one going. The situation today, it's as if a bunch of kids on a playground, somebody catches a ball and then drops it, and somebody else says, hey, you're out, infield fly rule. And the guy who drops it, what do you mean? We're playing football. They're assessing the wrong kind of proceeding in talking about obstruction of justice and the rest. And that is something that we need to get clear. Is there any kind of violation of law that we have seen in people's behavior in the counterintelligence investigation? Not that I know of.
No, I think, Admiral, though, the thing that we're not clear about...
Never got above Army captain, so thanks for the promotion.
Oh, sorry. I think the thing we're not clear about at this point is whether a grand jury has actually been convened. And there may, in fact, be an investigation being conducted by a grand jury of contacts with the Russians. And it may, in fact, involve General Flynn. And when you look at a possible obstruction charge here, Comey's going to come in and say, the reason I didn't act and do something about this was because it was an attempt maybe to influence me at the time, but nothing came of it. However, something ultimately did come of it. Comey was fired to try to stop the investigation from going forward. And people who are coming in against the president will say that was the act that turned a possible obstruction into a real obstruction of justice.
All right, and I hit pause. I thank all of you. Our breaking news coverage is going to continue. I want everyone to know we have a special town hall tonight, White House in crisis. That is tonight at 10. The guests are Senator Bernie Sanders and the governor of Ohio, John Kasich. And our continuing coverage of the breaking news is right now with AC360.
Good evening. A lot to get to tonight. Fired by President Trump, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates is speaking out for the first time. Her only television interview. She talks about James Comey, Michael Flynn, and President Trump. We begin, though, with yet another bombshell story that broke just a few hours ago. It involves the fired FBI Director James Comey and the memo our sources say he wrote. President Trump threatened Comey with tapes. Now it turns out that Director Comey has notes and memos that document what he says the president said to him in private, statements that might constitute obstruction of justice. Sources tell us in a memo describing a meeting in February, the president first asked others to leave the room and then, once alone with Director Comey, asked him to end the investigation of National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. His words, according to Director Comey, quote, "I hope you can let this go." This was the day after Comey himself had that Flynn himself had resigned. Now, again, if true, this memo is a clear sign yet of presidential interference with the investigation into whether members of his campaign team colluded with Russian officials. And the news comes a day after the revelation that the president revealed code-word classified intelligence to Russia's ambassador and their foreign minister. And we have a team of correspondents on this: Pamela Brown, Jake Tapper, Jim Acosta at the White House, Jim Sciutto, Phil Mattingly on the Hill. Pam Brown has new reporting. She starts us off. What are you hearing, Pamela?
Well, Anderson, according to sources speaking to myself and my colleague Jake Tapper, James Comey, the former FBI director, wanted to document a specific conversation he had with the president in February, where he alleged that the president asked him to end the probe into Michael Flynn. And according to a source I spoke with, he wanted to document the good and the bad, everything that he could remember, not only after that conversation, but about other conversations he had with the president. And this is a direct quote from this source. The source said, "You realize something momentous has happened and memories fade, so we wanted to memorialize it at the earliest time." I'm told that